Hi all, this is a very quick demo on how to use the search page. So I have here the search page loaded up. In the top left we have data and regions. I'll show you how those come into play. These might change, the format of this page might change slightly as I tweak things, but this will give you a general overview. So let's first load up some data. These are all files from the CGPS survey. In the future, we'll have different data on there. So I loaded this one called ME1, and here it is on the display down there. So this software gives us a number of ways to interact with the data. On this main screen here, we can actually left click and drag the mouse around, and it actually changes how it's displayed. And it does so in an interactive fashion. So I'm going to go back to kind of a good view here. Usually I try to have a mix of light and dark areas. You notice also up at the top here, this is the current location of the mouse cursor in galactic coordinates. Please see that tutorial on galactic coordinates. If we go around the display here, this menu bar has a lot of options. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just briefly, the file menu is kind of as you would expect for displaying and saving various data. We're not going to use that very much. The view menu gives you options on which to view. You can change the actual display itself, which is kind of fun, so we can make it a little bit smaller. There I changed that from 1400 to 1000 pixels. There we have a smaller display, as well as various other options. The zoom menu allows you to zoom in and out. The scale menu allows you to change how the data are displayed. There's what's called a linear scale. That turns out to be not very good for these data. The logarithmic scale is what these data look best in. We also have these various other ones. So we're going to go back to the log. The color allows you to change the color of the data. You can get real fancy here. I prefer to have something standard like heat or grayscale. Regions allows you to draw and load regions on here, so we can actually just select a circle. There's a circle region. We can move it around like this. We can make it larger and smaller, and although it's a circle, it doesn't matter. You can rotate it around. That's pretty straightforward stuff. You can delete it with the delete key. WCS is the coordinate system. We're going to keep things in galactic coordinates. Again, see that tutorial if you want. Here is degrees. I find degrees easier to use, so you notice up here this has changed format. The analysis gives us various other tools that we're not going to use, and help we're not going to use as well. So what I've done is on this area of the window, I've given you some common options: zooming in, zooming out, zooming to more or less the full view. We can change the color scale. We can change the colors themselves. And we can add circles and boxes and whatnot. Move them around. This is actually the current view within this green rectangle here, and you can see as I zoom in, as I zoom in, that green rectangle gets smaller. And on this screen it's really handy because I can actually move this around, and it updates the main window. This screen down here shows you a zoom in wherever the cursor is. So if we go over this source here, you can see that we have zoomed in there, and you can zoom in various amounts. This zooms in a little bit less. Down here are the stats for the currently selected region, and these are actually going to be really important. So if I zoom back out, let's find our region again. This one. So if we go up to something that's really bright, we can see the stats. Important for this project are the max value here, also the background value here. So the max here is 104. This is units of Kelvin. And if we go to a relatively faint part here, we can see the max is only 6 for this part. And it updates more or less in real time. Here the data have been blanked out. We have a minus infinity value. That's of course nonsense. So that's kind of the basic overview here. The last thing we haven't done is load candidates in. And right now this is structured as a drop-down menu. I imagine that this will change. And we can load up a candidate. Oops, there we go. We are near galactic longitude of 113. There it is. So I just loaded that candidate onto the display. And I can actually, with my mouse, or with my arrow keys, load other candidates on there. Alright, so that's a very brief tutorial on how to use this display.